Hey, it's Fruity Louise here, and today I'm here face to face with Anne Osborne, and she is a long-term fruitarian, and I have a lot of questions for her about that, but also about other things regarding your work and your life in general. Yeah. So first thing I'd really like to ask her is, what does she eat?
Basically fruit.
Yeah.
All types of fruit. So the more well-known fruits such as, mangoes, bananas, pineapples, and also the botanical fruits, so avocados and cucumbers and tomatoes and zucchini, which are, often classified as vegetables, but are, technically, if you want to be technical about it, are technically fruits. So basically all kinds of fruits, very occasionally nuts when they're in season, new season macadamias, and very occasionally greens, but not a regular part of my diet.
And how long have you done that?
This is the 24th year I've been eating this way and living this lifestyle.
And how is your health? Because obviously people will think this is really deficient diet,
Yeah.
But how is it?
My health's very good. I mean, obviously this diet's not just about health, it's about ethics and environmental reasons, but it has to tick all the health boxes as well, because however much a diet might fit in with your ethics, if it's not fulfilling your needs for certain nutrients, it's not going to be very sustainable long term. And the fact that I have been doing it for a long time and I felt very well and happy on the diet indicates to me that I am getting what I need from the fruits I eat.
Do you ever go to the doctor or have any problems?
I go to the doctor sometimes for blood tests. I don't think blood tests are the be-all and end-all of things, because people can have good blood work and still be not very well. But it is kind of useful if somebody says, well, you must be deficient in this or that, to say, well, actually I had my blood work done and I'm not deficient in this, or my cholesterol's very good. In fact, the last time I went to the doctor, he said my cholesterol levels were the best he'd ever seen.
Wow.
He knows I'm vegan, but he doesn't know I'm a fruitarian. That might be a bit too much for him. But, it was kind of, well, there you go, It's, the diet is being validated to some extent by getting good blood work.
And how does people look upon you when you come across normal people in the street?
Normal people?
Yeah. People living a normal diet.
Yeah. I think people are intrigued, and often people will say, well, but you don't eat bread. They can't quite get over the fact that you don't eat the normal staple of Western, society. But I've always had more interest than criticism, I think, especially face to face. I think sometimes on the internet people can say things because it's the internet, but I think if you're face to face with somebody and you're connecting with them in a compassionate way, you'll often get really good communication about it, and people are interested in how long you've been doing it for, what do you eat, and so it can lead to some really interesting connections with people, I've found anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you met people who are like, you're just too weird, I'm not gonna spend time with you?
I don't think I have ever.
No?
No, I don't think so. And I think if people see that you're happy and healthy in what you're doing, I think they're less likely to say, well, you can't do that. And I definitely think I've had more interest than criticism. Maybe people say things behind my back. I don't know, that weird fruitarian lady. But I tend to think if you, connect with people heart to heart on a heart level, then whatever your diet, whatever your lifestyle, whatever their diet and lifestyle is, then you can have effective communication. So I think it's far more than diet in the way you connect with somebody. Yeah.
And I know you have such a big passion for this that you've actually been working with the Woodstock Fruit Festival in the States for many years now. So can you explain what you're doing? Because I'm not sure that people actually know how big a part you are in it.
I do a bit of everything really. I do some of the artwork, which I like doing, the t-shirt designs and my pictures. I do the registrations, I liaise with the other presenters, and I organise the volunteers, and a lot of email queries come in every day, so I deal with that. So it's been pretty full on for the past couple of years, pretty much a big part of my life, and I've really enjoyed it because it's been a flexible job that I can do while I homeschool my son, and it's brought me into contact with all sorts of people. It's also been good for my brain because I've had to do some computer stuff, with software and Excel and things like, so it's, stimulated me and pushed me a bit as well, and challenged me on many levels. So it's been a really enjoyable time working for the festival.
It's actually been your full-time job for how many years?
I started part-time about 3-4 years ago, but for the past few years it's been like a full-time job.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, it is ending. So it's the last year this year.
Yes.
And how does it feel?
It feels almost as if I can't quite believe it's finished until the last day of the festival and it's no more. But in a way I don't see it as ending. So a lot of people said, do you feel sad? And I don't really feel sad, because I think this idea that Michael Arnstein had, that he brought to fruition, has changed so many people's lives, and it's had an ongoing effect in the raw community, you know, very much in the way that the Danish Fresh Food Festival has. So it might end in its current form, it might go on if somebody else decides to back the festival, but what it's started, and the friendships that it's, you know, created, and the networking, the people it's brought together, you know, will carry on. And we've even had 2 people that met 2013 at the festival, and they got married a year later in 2014 actually at the festival. So, you know, it really has changed some people's life forever. So I think that always, the energy, the communication, the friendships will carry on, even though in its physical form it may not. So I can't feel too sad, because I see all the amazing results that have come out of this festival, and so many people have had such a good time there. You know.
But what are you going to do afterwards? You know, suddenly it's finished and you'll sit there and you don't have your full-time job anymore.
I know, it's kind of like, you know, one door closes, another one opens. It's been a big part of my life, and it's taken many hours, so I'll have a lot more time. So there's things that I've wanted to do for the past few years that have been on the back burner, as it were. So I would like to do some more writing, you know, maybe get a book on fruit art together. I don't know, I just know that I have faith in the universe, and whatever it's got in store for me is going to be fantastic. So, you know, who knows? I just know it'll be different, but I'm not quite sure at this point, you know, what I'll be doing,
Okay. And can you reveal or tell more about why it's ending?
Yeah, the festival, you know, obviously when you put a big event on, there can be financial challenges, there's unknowns, and there was a couple of years when, you know, financially it was pretty tough. This year I think, you know, things are not too bad, but Michael Arnstein has been, you know, backing the festival both legally and financially, and he's just not in a position to do that anymore, because that's a big ask for anybody. So I think the festival is very viable. I think, you know, there's all the infrastructure's in place there. We have good returning volunteers, we have a really good location with a really good guy, you know, Mark at the camp. So I think, you know, there's no reason why it couldn't continue if somebody's prepared to take on that responsibility. So, you know, never know. And
you also live in Australia a lot of the year. Why Australia? Because you're British originally, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I originally moved to Australia because I was in a relationship with an Australian guy who couldn't stand the British climate. You know, I'm born in Britain, so I get used to it. You know what to expect, kind of thing, you know. And, you know, I do miss my family in England, but there are many benefits in Australia in terms of climate. Where I am in Queensland, it's beautiful all year round. We get sunshine all year round, so you get your vitamin D. Also, we get local fruit available all year round. So, you know, there are many benefits if you're living this diet and lifestyle to living in a sort of subtropical climate. So I do really appreciate every day the sunshine. I still, after 12 years.
Right. Yeah. And you also have 2 sons, one which is raw and one which isn't. So your youngest son, Cappy, has been on raw food since birth.
Yes, yeah.
And have you had any problems with having a son that's grown up on a very different and raw food diet?
I don't think so. I think a lot of people think socially you're going to have issues, but I've never found that. I think one important thing is socially is to have faith in what you're doing. I don't mean blind faith, I mean faith that's grown by having knowledge, reading books, learning about nutrition, biology, you know, all kinds of bodily cycles, so that you get this knowledge and this faith in what you're doing. And when you have this confidence, I think it's mirrored back to you by people. I think if you're unsure on what you're doing with your child, and you think, you know, am I doing the right thing? And, you know, and are very unconfident about it, people will pick that up. Right. But I think when you have faith, and also when they see that your child's very healthy and happy, and, you know, people have said to me about both my children, because my older boy was on the diet until he was 14, you know, their behaviour, is it down to their diet?
So I have a different question, because, you know, in some countries, raising your kid on a vegan and raw vegan diet even can be considered like child
even abuse.
You know,
yes.
So have you ever feared that somebody's going to take him away from you or something?
No, I haven't, but I can understand why people do, and I think a lot of people choose to go under the radar. They're bringing up children on a very different diet and they want to be careful. But then I kind of think it's also important to be out there in a way to show that it's possible, to show that children can be very happy and healthy on this diet. So I think each parent needs to make that decision for themselves, whether you want to go under the radar or whether you're prepared to maybe put yourself out there. But I don't have any fear, because I know that my son is very healthy and happy. You know, his development mentally is good, his development physically maybe a little bit different from children on different diets, which is
Right.
understandable. But with my older boy, when he was 6, we went to see a government nutritionist, and she analysed his diet, everything he ate, everything he drank for 2 weeks, and it came back basically saying, everything is fine.
Oh,
His
okay.
calcium was a bit under what they like,
Right.
but he's always had good bones and good teeth, so obviously he was getting enough. But I was quite surprised. I thought that's kind of a validation that a government nutritionist says, hey,
Yeah.
all his RDAs are being met. Obviously B12 needed to be supplemented, and calcium was, I think, 70% of what they required.
Right.
But often if you're a vegan, you need less calcium because you're not having the acid forming foods.
That's true.
So I've still got the letter from the
Okay.
nutritionist, because if people are saying it can't be done, well, actually a government nutritionist said yes, his diet was good, and they had no concerns over
Right.
his diet. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, one thing I noticed is that the raw vegan children seems to be smaller, or at least they grow later.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you get any comments on why isn't he taller?
Yes, you do. Some people are concerned because I think your point of reference is very much who you come into contact with. So when people come into contact with, children who are of a different size, that's their point of reference. It's the same with, fruitarians often considered a bit underweight or skinny, because people's points of reference are sort of like very different. Whereas if you lived in a community of fruitarians, you would probably think we're all normal, it wouldn't seem that we were underweight. And I also think growth is very much determined by the endocrine system. And the endocrine system of a child on a raw vegan diet with eating simply, fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds will be different, and that will govern the growth. So it's not just diet, although diet affects the endocrine system. The endocrine system will say, hey, we're ready for a growth spurt here, and it will do it at the time that's needed. And I think what's interesting is that people tend to assume that if we grow faster or we're taller or bigger, that it's somehow better.
Right.
But 100 years ago, people reached maturity when they were about 25. That's when they finished growing. Now it's about 18. And it's interesting in other mammals that the longer an animal takes to reach physical maturity, the longer is the lifespan. The same with puberty. Children come into puberty a lot earlier. And again with other mammals, the longer an animal takes to come into sort of sexual maturity, the longer the lifespan. So are we shortening our lifestyles by growing faster, or by coming into puberty sooner? There's a lot of questions to be answered. Is it advantageous to grow faster or not? And I think growth will be very different. I had quite an enlightened health visitor in England with my elder boy, and she said, well, he's not on the growth charts for Western children, but he is on the growth charts for Asian vegetarians. And I thought, yeah, that makes sense, So the growth will be different because the diet is different and the endocrine system
But
is...
do you think they'll catch up?
I think so, yes, because I think, my older boy, he was slower to grow and he's caught up. And I think it's slow. It's how it maybe was in the days before all this processed food and all these animal hormones and additives and chemicals in food. People did grow slower.
Right.
But it's not necessarily a bad thing because,
Okay.
it may actually mean that you live longer, that you grow slower.
We hope so.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was the final question for the day, but it's been awesome talking to you.
And you, thank you.
Thank you ever so much for sharing all this.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you. Bye for now.
If you would like to know more about the way I live and eat and how I got well naturally, you can go to my website and get more information. Here you can get a Get Started guide where I tell you all about the diet and lifestyle that I used, and you can also download my top 5 tips totally free. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this.